This right here is a 2-ounce, 59-milliliter bottle of Feel Free I just purchased for a little over $11 from this gas station behind me in Nashville, Tennessee. The label on the bottle claims that it is a plant-based herbal supplement. It's meant to give you focus, energy, and a mood lift. That sounds quite nice, but that's not the full story, is it? What exactly is in this bottle?
Let me show you something. This here is a time lock safe. You put something inside, set a timer, and you can't get the item back out until the timer runs out. It's a tool people use to break addictions and control their cravings. Why the tape? Yeah, it didn't quite work out for me. Turns out I couldn't wait 24 hours to get what was inside out, and instead watched any tutorial I could to safely open the box without breaking it. I failed, in more ways than one.
What could have made me so desperate that I'd break my own safe? That thing did cost me 50 quid. Exactly what's inside this drink.
I absolutely wish I knew sooner how Kratom was going to impact my life.
We're only concerned about the safety of a popular supplement known as Kratom.
Famous Kratom.
The FDA recently published an advisory about the dangers of using Kratom.
Though it's difficult to admit, I was addicted to this drug, Kratom, for over 5 years. And it wasn't that bad at first. In fact, I would have been the first to tell you, I was using it responsibly. I could never get addicted, no. In fact, there were many positives that I'd found in the beginning that I will talk about later in this video. But then, oh, yeah. Then it took complete control of my life. From the constant anxiety of not having enough of it, to the nausea and blurry spotted vision from having too much of it, Kratom slowly consumed me until I was only ever in one of two states, either on Kratom or wishing I was. The main ingredient inside this bottle is Kratom, sometimes pronounced Kratom. Kratom is a tropical tree native to Southeast Asia whose leaves have long been used for their mind-altering effects. For centuries, people living in Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia have chewed the leaves or brewed them into a tea for the stimulant and medicinal benefits. In smaller doses, Kratom was traditionally used by laborers and farmers for its mild stimulant effect, similar to how coffee is used in the West. In fact, that's one of the main angles that made it feel so acceptable to me. There's nothing wrong with coffee, right? It's kind of like an Eastern version of coffee. And if you think about it, coffee and Kratom actually share the same plant family, so what's so different? Yeah, the more you use it, the more you'll cling to any excuse you can to keep using it. In higher doses, though, interestingly enough, Kratom isn't as much of a stimulant as a sedative, where if you take larger amounts of Kratom, instead of giving you a lot of energy, it actually makes you feel more lethargic, with pain-killing benefits similar to that of some prescription opioids like codeine and morphine, which there very much is a reason for.
The thing is, no one plans on getting addicted. But even with your best intentions, it's a losing battle when your vice is actively messing with the processes in your brain and is chemically addictive. I bet it's the case that most of you wish you could spend just a little bit less time on your phones every day, and yet, here you are. You didn't expect to be this addicted to your phone, did you? And scrolling's only messing with your dopamine receptors. Imagine that with little extra opiate receptors thrown in. Let me not give Zuckerberg any more ideas. I was officially diagnosed with ADHD earlier this year. Video coming eventually. But I knew long before my brain wasn't functioning like everyone else's. When you feel broken, or when you feel like you just wish there was an easy way to fix yourself or dig yourself out of a hole, you go looking for solutions. Therapy didn't feel like the appropriate solution because I didn't feel like it was like a problem that therapy could solve, and it's expensive. Wait times with the NHS for ADHD are also catastrophically bad. Plus, that'd be doctors and pills, which at the time felt a lot worse than something more natural. I heard about this new tea powder from Asia that might solve some of my problems, and it's all natural. Why not give that a shot? I heard it's just as addictive as caffeine, and that doesn't sound so bad. I love coffee. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, if you talk to anyone who takes Kratom regularly, they'll be the first to tell you, Kratom isn't an opiate. No, it just sort of plays with the brain's opiate receptors. Totally different thing. Chemically, kratom, or Mitragina speciosa, contains a pair of very potent alkaloids, mitragynine and 7-hydroxymitragynine, or 7-O. These alkaloids bind to the mu-opioid receptors in the brain, the same receptors targeted by opioids like morphine and codeine. However, kratom's chemistry is complex. Mitragynine and its metabolites also interact with other receptor systems in the brain, serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, which helps give users that boost in their mood, at least at first. The other alkaloid found in kratom, 7-OH, is a much bigger problem. 7-OH is reported to be significantly more potent than morphine for the mu-opioid receptor, and a lot of these kratom products that are sold at gas stations across the USA are purposely fortified with higher levels of 7-OH so as to immediately hook the user. So then, why would anyone start taking this stuff in the first place? In the beginning, kratom felt like a miracle drug. All I had to do was take 2 to 3 grams of this foul-tasting powder, mix it in with some orange juice, and I would feel great. The usual roadblocks in my ADHD were gone. The usual issue of having problems starting and stopping certain tasks, they weren't there at all. I felt like I was able to control my usual symptoms of ADHD so well, and it also gave me so much mental clarity. It made me feel good about myself, and the weirdest part about the headspace of kratom is when you take that drug, the feelings you get don't feel like it's because you took the drug. The feelings are, well, this is how I always am, actually. I always feel this great. I just happen to take kratom. I'm meant to be this way. This is how it is. Kratom has this really interesting side effect of making you take more joy in the details between things, and considering that's one of my favorite parts about life is noticing little differences, it felt dangerously in tune with my brain. But I knew this could be addictive, so I set myself some rules. If you've ever experienced addiction, you know how this story goes. I would never have kratom 2 days in a row. There always had to be a day in between. And I would make sure to rotate the strains so I didn't develop a tolerance. Red, green, white, all on the alternate days, all every other day. And under no circumstances would I ever even think of taking kratom more than once a day. You see, I'd seen these sad stories online of these addicts who were taking kratom every day and they were addicted to the drug, and I'm smarter than them. That could never happen to me. No way. I could have my cake and eat it too. I felt like I'd successfully found a treatment for my ADHD, and I felt like I could keep this up, and finally I could feel whole again. Then I stopped feeling whole. Or at least I think that's what was happening. In fact, now that I think about it, I've always sort of had this body anxiety in my chest. I can't place when it started, but no, I must have always had that, because I feel it now, and I can't remember when it started, so yeah. And actually, it's kind of okay, because kratom helps remove that. It lifts up the anxiety, and it's all gone, so everything's fine, right? See, the thing about rules is they're only useful until you break them. 2021 was one of the roughest years of my life. I didn't have a permanent place to live for 5 months. I was trying to get on the property ladder, and in the UK, that process is a shambolic mess. All of my stuff was in storage. I was still making weekly videos, and I felt like everyone's watching me fail miserably, as I keep getting told every single week that it's just one more week, and then you'll have a house. It's just one more week. It's just one more week. Over and over and over. The rules that I had in place to make sure that I'd feel okay, well, it was a different time. I'm feeling so stressed all the time now. I'm sure it wouldn't hurt if I just had it instead of just every other day. Maybe every day I'll still rotate the strains, and that's weird. The boost of joy and energy that I used to get it's not really there anymore. It's not working. I'd make up excuses. Maybe the green sludge just stopped working because the quality's gone bad. The quality it's hard to get in this country, and maybe I just can't take it the right way, and maybe I have to try and rotate better, and I'm doing something wrong because it's supposed to make me feel better, and it stopped. And now I feel bad all the time. I don't remember feeling bad all the time before, but I only remember feeling bad now. So at least I got to keep taking this because it's the only thing that seems to have helped in the past, even though sometimes it makes me feel sick. I just have to keep going. God, the amount of times I'd also get little spots in my vision where I couldn't actually see. It was almost like whatever I was focusing on, there would be a hole. And sure, that happens sometimes, but at least I don't feel anxious anymore about, the body anxiety thing. Now I just feel anxious because I can't actually work. The whole reason I took this was to treat my ADHD, and now it's causing its own problems, but maybe I just need to take more. Maybe I could take more. Okay, there's a slight amount of energy there. I still feel bad. Let me just take a little bit more, and oh God, now I'm nauseous. I feel sick, and I don't want to move. And why was I taking this thing again? What once was something I'd occasionally take to treat my ADHD slowly became something I had to take so that I wasn't going to feel overwhelmingly anxious. I was only ever in two states, either on Kratom and feeling okay/nauseous, or thinking about the next time I could take Kratom. Did I just wake up? Well, it's time for a cup of Kratom. It's just like coffee, haven't you heard? Ooh, got that mid-afternoon anxiety? Kratom makes you feel better. Slowly but surely, I developed a Pavlovian response to any sort of negative emotion, where if I felt bad for any sort of reason, oh, I broke a mug. God, well, Kratom, I gotta have Kratom, that'll make me feel better. To the point where any negative feeling began to have this hook in my brain of, you need to take this drug. It will make you feel better. I wasn't able to experience any of the negatives of life because I'd had something that would cure all those problems. And I know if you've never taken a substance like this, it can feel like this is so stupid. Obviously you wouldn't do that. This is just how addiction works. It didn't hit immediately. It insidiously took its time until I didn't realize it. But not really, because the scariest part about this, for the most part for me, I wasn't unaware. I was incredibly aware of what was going on. I knew what was happening. I knew I was taking more. I knew it wasn't doing anything. And yet I had to keep taking it because of what it was and what it could be and what I needed. I didn't want to feel anxious all the time, and this seemed to be the only thing I could do. I meditated, I did yoga, I went out for runs, I did everything that you're supposed to do to manage these anxieties and live naturally. But I also took Kratom, which supersedes all of those things.
I then bought myself this time-lock safe. I'd go back to the way I was. I was happy back then. I think. If I ever take any Kratom, then I store the rest of it in this safe, and I cannot access it at all until the next day if I just set the timer to over 24 hours. The next day, though, never felt successful. Never felt good. Just felt wasted. Why am I doing this again? Why can't I take more Kratom? Why do I have to control myself so much? Why not just take more? It's really not harming anything at all. It's actually helping me. I have to work, but God, I could work so much better if I could just get some Kratom. At least to stop thinking about it. I've placed some matcha powder in a bag in this safe for a demonstration. At the height of my addiction, I stood at this very counter in my kitchen, shaking and smacking the sides of my safe once I realized the bag inside was not closed tightly. Little by little, small, fine powder would escape the safe and find its way onto the counter. I stood for 20 minutes, violently shaking and smacking the box until I'd collected what I thought was just enough. I had to scrape fine dust powder into a pile, somehow use a credit card to scrape it into a mug so I could put it down my throat. I looked at myself in that moment. I could see what I was doing. I could see what I'd become. I knew it was insane, and so I came up with the conclusion it was finally about time. I maybe close the bag a bit more tightly next time. Yeah, that'll solve the problem. Next time, I shoved a knife into the side of the lid, nearly cutting my hand from the torn plastic as I accidentally split the tub right down the middle. I did it. I was okay. For one more day. But before I could find an actual way out of my addiction, I still had to contend with Kratom's legal status. Unlike in the USA, which has no federal restrictions on the drug, the UK passed a blanket ban on all psychoactive substances in 2016, outside of a small list of very specific ones. Though I disagree with this law in theory, it was useful for me in this case. This doesn't make it impossible to get, it just makes it harder. Using it or buying it from someone within the UK isn't restricted, just the sale of it and the import.
In the USA, many states ban Kratom, but knowing how addictive the substance can be, that's nothing that a 6-hour drive across state borders can't fix. Here in Tennessee, Kratom is fully legal, but in nearby Arkansas and Alabama, it is not. So just simply drive to Tennessee and get yourself your fix. But when it comes to other countries around the world, well, in the countries that kratom originated from, a lot of them heavily restrict the plant. And in many European countries, it is also heavily restricted. But despite everything I've told you so far, you might be surprised to hear I don't think banning kratom is a good idea. Mostly because I think outright banning most drugs is a bad idea. In my opinion, kratom shouldn't be banned, but more heavily restricted so that it can only easily be accessible by way of a prescription from a licensed healthcare professional. And I know a lot of people might find a problem with that and say, oh, the whole point of it is it's accessible, plant-based medicine, and you don't need big pharma. But with a substance like this that has such a strong case for making people addicted to it and having negative repercussions, I think we should put that behind a healthcare professional. It always confuses me when people start vaping nicotine. You know, the thing that was started as a way to wean people off the more harmful cigarette? Yeah, that's now causing a fresh addiction in people that have never once touched a cigarette in their lives. Why would you start that? With kratom, because the way it plays on the opioid receptors, you might not be surprised to find out that people that are abusing drugs, such as morphine, codeine, and even full-blown heroin, have found a lot of success weaning themselves off these harder drugs by taking kratom. These drugs can absolutely destroy your life, and withdrawal symptoms from them can be so severe that it causes pretty much everyone to just relapse, and kratom is helping prevent that. That can't be too bad a thing, correct? That, and for many people living with chronic pain, traditional painkillers might not be as effective. Or worse, they might find themselves allergic to traditional painkillers. So kratom acts as a natural solution to this. And if you find yourself living in chronic pain and you think you might have found a solution to that pain, realistically, no law is going to stand in the way of you trying to help yourself. But that's why a possible solution here is to regulate kratom. Invest in kratom studies. Make sure that it is kept up to rigorous standards and that the products are only sold in pharmacies, not just easily accessible next to the till at a gas station so that a curious person who's never heard of it before won't just pick it up and go, oh, this sounds nice, I could use some energy, and then they end up with a year-long, 4-year-long, 6-year-long, hopefully not longer, addiction. I mean, good news for the gas station companies who are raking in the money, getting people hopelessly addicted to a opioid light or gas station heroin, but really bad news for the American populace who don't know any better. This is the whole point of regulation. This is what we have it for, you dum-dum. You know, I originally had scripted this saying the fact that these kratom products are sold in the back counter of gas stations should be a red flag on its own. And then I actually went into an American gas station and found the situation was significantly worse. Cigarettes? Oh yeah, those are kept in the back behind the counter. Don't want to get people to just pick them up and get them, right? Kratom? No, that was literally right next to the till. I could pick it up, grab it, and give it to the guy. That is really messed up. That should not be allowed. No, the head of the American health system is, what? What's he doing? He's saying vaccines are bad? Oh, of course. Oh, ADHD isn't real. Of course. People elect clowns and they're wondering why they're somehow in a circus all of a sudden. Anyway, that and the full effects of kratom are rarely communicated effectively on any of these new kratom products. You might get lucky and find some small print on the back that says something about kratom possibly developing addiction for you, and maybe you gotta split it up into 1 or 2 doses within this very, very tiny bottle. But I've seen products like New Brew, for instance, which is advertised all over TikTok as the cool thing to do, like alcohol. No way. That's old people stuff. These days, Gen Zs, we take some New Brew. Yeah. Kratom is like alcohol for kids. Does that sentence not sound weird to you? Not at all? No? Like alcohol for the new age. Yeah, a healthy dose of alcoholism for the new age as well. But despite it being marketed as similar to alcohol, or even similar to coffee, the withdrawal symptoms from kratom are anything but.
I didn't just quit kratom once. I didn't just quit kratom twice. Like most people who've tried to quit, I would feel super successful after I got past that initial hump of physical withdrawal symptoms and mark myself completely free. I got past the muscle aches, the sleepless nights, the flu-like symptoms, and complete and total body fatigue. But the main thing that would always bring me back was up here. It was the cravings. It would sometimes feel like kratom was the one ring, and anytime I wasn't on it, my brain would be calling to it, thinking about it. Maybe just a little now wouldn't be so bad. I've been pretty good so far. I bet I've reset my tolerance, and I can be good about it this time. Remember those rules? I bet I can follow them now. And, hey, I bet it feels great. Turns out if you condition your brain to expect a substance to boost your mood every time you're low, you begin to develop a Pavlovian response. Something bad happen? You can bet your brain is already cooking up a strategy to get more kratom. It's just the way it works. At first, I tried a strategy of keeping it out of my house, thinking that would work. But that just resulted in me feeling awful during the week until I could access some more. And at one point, I literally got more. So I just felt trapped. The only strategy that effectively worked for me was getting rid of all of it and doing everything I could not to get any more. I signed up to therapy and cut out kratom cold turkey. And those cravings I would get would ebb and flow week after week, month after month. I'd be so close to relapsing, but luckily, it was not a thing I could get as easily in the UK, so I dealt with the cravings and intense body anxiety for over 3 months. And sure, it was a bit easier for me to avoid the temptation of kratom in the UK, where it is much harder to get, but I did have a big problem coming up. I was about to take a big trip to America where I could easily find kratom while getting gas. What if I had it again there? What if it was just once? It could be fine. How am I to know unless I try? I think back to one of the most pivotal moments of that trip. It's true, I could buy kratom anywhere, and in fact, no fewer than 5 times did I look up where I could buy kratom along my route. The cravings were insidious, yet each and every time, something stopped me from carrying through. I'd text a friend, or try to consider some wild American dish instead. I'd be around the corner from the shop that I could get some at, but I'd decide against it at the last second. I was 2 months clean, so I bet I'd be fine. I'd just have to have it once. I ended up calling a friend up from a park in Chicago to reason through my plan to just get one more fix, to just have once. And I realized that from the act of calling him, I was desperately looking for him to tell me not to take it. I thought of all the nauseous days. I thought of all the body anxiety. I thought of what my partner would think. I thought of all the shame and the grief that this had brought upon me. I thought about what I did to the counter. Why would I want to risk that again? Even if I did just take one bit, one more time, wouldn't that possibly reset the clock in my body yearning to feel it again? For what? Would any sort of feeling be remotely worth that? Here I am, spending some valuable time that I have on this earth in a lovely park in Chicago on the phone with a friend talking about some stupid green sludge. I ended the call with my friend, and I did end up walking into that store that sold kratom. I looked at the many bags on the shelves. I even had a chat with the guy behind the counter. And then I ended up taking this photo. Fuck kratom.
It turns out, the only way I could find to successfully shake my addiction was fully admitting my addiction was bigger than me. I don't have the self-control to fight against a thing that causes chemical imbalances in my brain. I'm not smarter than anyone else that also got addicted. We're one and the same, human. Unless I can fully shake myself from its grasp, I can't trust myself to ever have it again. Who knows if it'd be like the beginning? Who knows if that'd be enough? Who knows if I'd want more? No. I think that's just about enough. After a few months of therapy and a healthy dose of cycling, the most incredible thing happened. The body anxiety that mysteriously appeared and felt like my general sense of being slowly began to wash away. I came back from that road trip a changed person. I made a decision. I took back control. And now I'm over a year clean and without any body anxiety to speak of. Maybe the anxiety found itself in me as my brain was seeking any sort of solution, any sort of way it could to get me to take more of the green sludge. But now I'm happy. I find joy in everything I used to, from cycling, playing video games, making videos, and more. And I don't need to take anything to feel like that. This is just my general state of being, and it's honestly a beautiful thing. I'd be lying if I said I don't ever feel the pull to take some kratom now and again. Sometimes I'll have a particularly bad day in which a thought quite quickly enters my brain. You want to take some kratom? Thankfully, the following thought is also quite quick. Absolutely fucking not. Addiction is not your fault, and though it might seem impossible, just know you can come out the other side. No matter where you are in your life, please don't start taking kratom. And just know the only way to really feel free from this drink is being free from it.